Plumes of orange smoke fill the air. The crowd is roaring. And above this historic Zandvoort circuit, the air is hazy. Max Verstappen and Red Bull have well and truly delivered today to see the reigning world champion win his home Grand Prix, his 4th consecutive win and his 10th out of 15 races this year. Meanwhile, it was another difficult day for Ferrari, but Mercedes look like they certainly have pace. A complicated one, a brilliant race, fantastic racing, and here to help me dissect all of the action on the F1 Live post-race show is Mercedes reserve driver Nick de Vries. A very good time, I think, to have a Mercedes reserve driver in after what we've just seen during this Dutch Grand Prix. Brilliant racing. Max Verstappen very much sticking to the script that the Orange Army demanded and winning this race. Nick, an overview. What did you make of that one?
Very exciting, eventful. In fact, when I just came to meet you to basically get ready for the show, you know, we were both saying, you know, we have to get ready for this because it was so eventful that, yeah, hopefully we remember everything.
We've got all the notes written down here. We were both head in hand.
I can't write your height.
You can't read my writing.
Unfortunately, no. And I'm a little distracted by the party and festival that have just started behind us.
I know, look at it all. It's completely mad. And I mean, that grid beforehand was brilliant. So much pressure was on Max Verstappen's shoulders, wasn't it, to deliver today. But as I said to Christian Horner, is he coping? And he said, yeah, he is. He's treating this like any other weekend. And like any other weekend for Max Verstappen at the moment, that means winning once again. His domination this season has been something else, hasn't it?
Yeah, they are together incredible. I think Max has an extreme high level of confidence at the moment. He has the momentum, he has the car, the team, they're executing, and they're not putting a foot wrong. So yeah, fair play to them, and well done for his race.
And we'll deep dive into it, but overall, today they very much handled absolutely everything. The race, Mercedes and Ferrari in part threw at them.
Yeah, I mean, there were at times, I think, the safety car with Yuki was a little bit unfortunate for Mercedes and Ferrari. Obviously, Charles had just pitted, and also, I think if it was not for that virtual safety car, Max would have, you know, come behind Lewis out of the pits, 7 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, and then, you know, it actually would have been a very exciting fight till the end. And obviously, we had the safety car for Valtteri, which then would have, you know, changed things. But then you would have had the track position and pitted for the soft. So it was an exciting race, but again, they didn't put a foot wrong, and yeah, ultimately they deserved their home win.
Yeah, the pit wall was working overtime there, but delivering exactly the right strategy calls, exactly when it mattered. We'll talk more about exactly what happened under both safety cars. I've got it all written down here, and we're trying to make sense of it. Our heads were in our hands, just trying to really understand exactly what went on and remember the chaos that ensued. Do get in touch with us, hashtag F1 Live here on the post-race show. It was not a good day once again, and I mean, we're getting almost tired of saying this, for Ferrari. We want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but when they get to a pit stop with Carlos Sainz and they don't have all 4 tyres there, you've got to start asking questions. Will they begin to make changes in that team? Because something is not working right now.
I mean, who are we to judge? I just feel for them. I think they had a very strong car at the beginning of the season, and it's still very competitive. I think Charles, if it was not for his, you know, small mistakes in Sector 2 yesterday, he could have arguably be on pole, but yeah, that is definitely kind of preventing them from executing consistently and putting up, you know, a strong fight against Max and Red Bull.
The studio will do a bit of a deep dive as well into this, but I was sort of writing down the notes of exactly what happened to Carlos Sainz today. You had that incredibly slow pit stop for him. He overtook under yellow flags, but you say you thought he was in front. That was a bit on the edge.
Difficult to judge, but yeah, into turn 1, you're right.
A 5-second penalty, of course, for him, with an unsafe release in the pit lane as well. And he also didn't seem to have any pace, even in the first stint. He was losing the back of the cars in front.
Yeah, I think both Ferraris struggled a little bit with pace, and probably, yeah, Red Bull and Mercedes had the slight upper hand on them, but clearly things didn't really work out for him, and he just, didn't really have the luck and momentum he was probably hoping for.
I know. I mean, whether it's strategic error, whether it's pit stop error, whether it's just simply having no luck, Ferrari are having a time of it at the moment. We're now going to head to the studio. We're right in the middle of the paddock here, so we're sort of open to the elements and indeed the public who are enjoying the party. We're going to head to the studio to speak to Alex Brundle and Sam Collins, do a bit of a deep dive here on Carlos Sainz and his bad day out.
It's been super busy already at race control, Laura, and we'll come to Carlos Sainz in a minute. There's a couple of points I wanted to cover off first, because quite a few drivers have been called up to race control to get various penalties. Guan Yu Zhou, he had a pit lane speeding penalty, got that 5-second penalty. Sebastian Vettel, he got a 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags against Lewis Hamilton, and 1 penalty point on his licence, makes 2 total, so it doesn't really matter, you're allowed 12. Yuki Tsunoda, for that moment where he came out of the pits, has also been summoned to race control. Now, he said it was a differential problem, but we'll see. But Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez have been summoned to race control to discuss this, which we haven't seen a penalty for yet.
So this is the slow stop for Ferrari and the left rear tyre, just not in the pit lane, Keystone Cop stuff. But we're waiting on, that wheel, and that gun that we can see just left of shot there gets left out in the pit lane. Sergio Perez is going to come along in a minute and hit it. I think they may well get away with it, though. This line here, the definition between the fast lane and the working lane, as long as that gun is inside the working lane, Carlos Sainz should be fine. Whether Sergio Perez is then fine for hitting a piece of pit lane equipment on exiting the pits is another thing, but...
And it had already gone really badly wrong for Ferrari at that point, just by not having the left rear wheel ready for Sainz's car. I mean, another bit of a pit lane disaster for Ferrari. But it got worse and worse for car 55 of the Spaniards.
Well, they were super jumpy with Leclerc as well when we had the false start and then the eventual yellow flag, eventual virtual safety car for Yuki Tsunoda. Here was the incident you were talking about earlier, Nick, between Sainz and the Alpine. So you've got the yellow flag there on the right-hand side, and you're quite correct. It's when you pass the yellow flag, that's the moment where you have to have not overtaken. I think he has just made it by the Alpine there, provided there's not a yellow flag further down the pit wall.
I think the yellow flag's out for an incident, and the incident's for the car that is stopped on the side of the road in front of him. So I think that was probably an illegal pass. But again, no summons from the FIA yet, so it looks like he may get away from it. But we heard on team radio that Ferrari thought he had to give the position back. That's not how it works. And he thought he's going to definitely get a penalty for it because he didn't get warned by the team. So I don't know. I think the day for Sainz is going to get worse.
Well, also discussed on team radio, Sainz had a lot to say about this one, the unsafe release then. Later on in the pit lane. This was under the safety car. Everybody boxing. It's a very tight pit lane here in Zandvoort. Out comes Carlos Sainz and again into the path of an Alpine. He's been in the wars with the Alpines all day long, and there's actually a little bit of contact there. I've just seen from the left rear of Carlos Sainz. What a disastrous day in the pit lane for Ferrari, Sam.
Absolutely. I mean, it couldn't have gone more wrong for Carlos Sainz. Actually, in commentary, I said, why didn't he actually park it? Because there's so much that had gone wrong for him. He's already dropped to 8th position post-race as a result of the 5-second penalty for this unsafe release. He's under investigation for that incident with Perez and the wheel gun. That could result in a penalty for Sainz, but it could arguably also result in a penalty for Perez. So lots going on, Laura, at race control. So I think we'll come back and talk to you a little bit later because there's still news coming out of that big building.
Thanks very much, Sam. Nick de Vries is just giving some passers-by a thumbs up, but we are waiting for our first driver of the day to join us at the desk. And it is Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki, hey, how are you? Your microphone's just there. Talk us through what happened there. A steering issue, the wheel's not feeling fixed. What was the sensation in the car that was bothering you most?
Well, I thought there was an issue. From my side, it was kind of rear part, something going on. And engineer was not sure, but I got told that to stop at the track. But yeah, confirmed that engineer didn't see any data. That's why we drove back to the pit. And after we fitted a new tire, engineers saw the clear issue in the data. That's why we stopped. Yeah.
And what happened? Obviously, your belts were already untightened, and obviously there was a clear issue. But somehow they still felt like, yeah, they thought it was going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing was, normally we see in the data clearly, but we didn't see much what was going on. But I feel clearly there was an issue because exit of pit lane. Yeah, I was just wheel spinning only one tire, which is strange, and I was like feeling like drifting all the straight with the counter steering. But yeah, they didn't see that much clear issue. That's why there was a bit of confusing. Yeah.
And Yuki, sum up the disappointment as well, because a Q3, you haven't scored points since Barcelona. I know you'd have really wanted them, especially given where we are at the moment with the driver market as well. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of things happening, especially, you know, a couple of races I was in the point and I had got crashed, or I had a reliability issue and I lost the points opportunity. This race was kind of that kind of situation. So yeah, it's really frustrating. But at the same time, just keep doing what I'm doing for progress in terms of pace. I'm quite happy what I've done so far. So I just keep doing like this my side and just focus, yeah, what I can do.
Well, honestly, I feel for you, man. I feel like you did a good job in the past few races. You qualified well, and unfortunately, luck hasn't been on your side this weekend. But hopefully, you'll be back in Monza.
Yeah, Monza is our home track, so you know you'll be good mood anyway as a team. So we just have to push, you know, until the end, and hopefully we can score points. And mainly, I want to just back into the normal rhythm. Yeah. So far, just a lot of things happening going around, and this kind of too much. So just we need a clean race week, score points, and back to the rhythm. And I think after that, I can have a good consistent race. Yeah. But first now, I need a clean race week.
Great
Wish
stuff.
you all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Good thing about triple header, you can bounce straight back next week. Thanks, Yuki.
Thank you very
Hard
much.
luck today. Thanks so much.
So
We will let you go. Oh, gutting for Yuki, one driver who did not have a good day and indeed was sort of the catalyst for a bit of the chaos that ensued afterwards. Another driver who has not had a good day, and we've discussed what we think went on. Let's hear from the man himself. It's Carlos Sainz.
Carlos, is this one of your most frustrating races? You obviously had that pit stop, then the unsafe release, and that yellow flag with Ocon.
Yeah, it was a mess. The whole race in trouble. First with the confusing pit stop that we had, then the yellow flag that I think I saved myself by very little margins, and then the unsafe release that was an unsafe release. I was launched into the pit lane correctly. The problem is I had to brake to don't take a McLaren guy out of his life, and if because of avoiding action they give you a penalty, I find it very, very frustrating, and I'm gonna go and speak with the FIA now because I don't understand it.
Generally, where do you go after this weekend? It's been a bit more of a chasing in race pace performance from you guys, isn't it?
It's race pace, no, where we're missing. I'm not happy with how the car felt in the race. It was super tricky to drive. We were always fighting the rear a lot and a lot of overheating, and we need to find why the car in the race is not as strong as in quali.
Hard luck, thanks.
I thought Nick de Vries's phone was ringing just then, but it wasn't, was it? I think someone was walking past with bells or whistles or
electric
something
scooter.
Was going on. A bell on the electric scooter.
Yes,
Very Dutch. I love it. Difficult to hear both from Yuki and then indeed Carlos Sainz as well about the difficult days they have had.
We just had a debate, and I felt like Laura was being way too hard on Yuki.
The thing is, you can play good cop and I've got to be bad cop.
We just agreed to that.
Yeah, that's going to be the dynamic here. That's what we're going to have to do.
Okay.
I'll take it. I'll take being
I'd rather
bad
be
cop.
the good cop.
I know, you've got the easy job, haven't you? Yeah, you make a good cop, Nick.
Thank you.
It's an
I
easy
take
day
that.
for you. But let's talk Ferrari. Let's talk Charles Leclerc as well.
I thought we were going to talk Mercedes, no?
No, we're not going to talk Mercedes just yet. We're going to talk Ferrari. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I've
Go
got my
ahead.
notes here and he's just
Okay.
reading them off. Can we talk about Mercedes yet? Soon.
Okay.
Soon. Firstly, Charles Leclerc, P3, and in the post-interview he said, we simply wouldn't have beaten Max today. We got unlucky with the timing of the virtual and the safety cars. And also he said that Mercedes were flying on that hard tyre, which I think perhaps we weren't quite expecting.
Well, I think that summed it up all perfectly. They were perhaps lacking a little bit of pace. They were unlucky with the first virtual safety car, and they did make the right call to go to the softs at the end, and that was, that rewarded them the podium at the end. So I think, he was probably happy with this podium, and that was probably the maximum they were able to achieve this not weekend, but today.
You normally have Will Buxton with you on this show, don't you?
Yes.
Does he play the bad cop as well?
I'm not sure.
Come on,
I
he
think
does.
we are similar.
So I'm worse than Will. Wow.
Yes, you are. I'm sorry
Well,
to say.
Speaking of Will.
You're a lady, you know. You are. we are softer.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try. I'll continue to do what I do. Thanks, Nick. Speaking of Will, though, he's out and about, and he is with Mattia Binotto.
Mattia, a difficult afternoon, constantly evolving in terms of strategy. Was today a podium won or a potential win lost?
No, I don't think it's about strategy. Once again, here after Hungary and Spa, we are not fast enough in the race. So I think it's, and when you do not have a fast car or fast car enough, it's difficult as well try to win races or try to have good results. So our first concern after the race of today, once again, is try to look at the pace, at the speed of the car, the performance. While now it seems 3 races that we do not have let me say, we are not exploiting what should be the potential of that car. So, and that's the main concern that on the strategy today. Certainly we made a big mess with the first pit stop of Carlos, too late call, mechanics were not ready, and which cost him quite a lot of positions. And then I think in terms of, we had quite an unlucky situation maybe with Charles that we had a safety car when he just pitted, which didn't make his race easier. But overall, my main concern of today is the pace of the car.
The pace of the car wasn't there for Charles, but clearly not for Carlos either. There was a big disparity between the 2 drivers today.
No, I think that Carlos may have been damaged at the start in contact with Lewis, something we need to review and analyze, so maybe that's not the right answer, but it's certainly something on which we need to look at.
Looking at the championship, Charles back up into P2, tied with Sergio Perez. Now, George Russell, though, only 13 points behind. How much pressure do you think you'll be feeling from Mercedes for the remainder of this season?
Certainly Mercedes is very fast at the moment, and that's our main, let me say, worry, because certainly they are coming back. Only, I think, 30 points gap between us and them. So it's something on which we are looking. We knew today they were there. They were just behind. They would have been fast in the race itself. And once again, I think we have not been fast enough to try to beat them. So now in a week time we've got Monza, important for us. Finally back there after COVID with all our tifosi in the grandstands. It's great to have them there. They will certainly support and try to push ourselves, the team and the car and our drivers. But as well, I think we need to make sure that we at least we analyze, review, and understand why now it's 3 races in a row that we are not fast enough.
Great to see Charles back on the podium, and we'll see you in Monza in a week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, a really difficult day for Ferrari, and I have to say I have thrown Nick de Vries out of the studio for his insolence and replaced him with Jolyon Palmer. Apparently you can still see Nick's hair. You're not crouching low enough. They're both still with me.
I thought I was small enough.
Not quite, Nick, not quite. Jolyon, welcome. What a race to call from the commentary box. You stood there, looked at me and went, I'm actually really tired.
It was 72
Action-packed.
laps, and it was really long, but it was such a great race. I mean, I've loved this weekend. The atmosphere, everyone's speaking about the Dutch crowd, they're incredible. Max on pole and the win and everything has been great. But one thing that we were all thinking was, is it going to be a good race? Because last year it was a little bit, it wasn't the best. I was going to say that, but you did it for me. It wasn't the best. And I was sort of wondering if it's going to be the same. They tried to make the DRS and the overtaking better. And it was great. Didn't know who was going to win it all the way through. Certainly didn't know who was going to be on the podium. And really enjoyed it all the way through the field.
Your thoughts on Ferrari and their difficult day? That's
it,
the eyebrow raise says it all.
What didn't go wrong for Carlos today? He had a little touch at turn 1. That was the good part, was that he didn't have any damage, or it didn't look like he did, but he had no pace in the first stint. It looked like he was saving the tyres, but he was actually just so slow. He was still the first to pit. Then had a horrible pit stop. Then overtook under yellow flags, which didn't get penalised.
Yeah, but it was a bit hard to judge. I didn't really feel like I thought he was already in front when the flags came out. It was a tricky one.
I think it was an overtake with the yellow.
Okay,
I think it was, but it was. Hey, I'm sure they'll argue that. You should go and speak to Ferrari, because they'll argue that. But even then, he got away with that one, it seems. And then there was the unsafe release, and he got some points at the end of it. But it was a tough day for Carlos. At least Charles, his pace was okay. He was going to be beaten by both the Mercedes, I think, until Lewis didn't pit and finished it back on the podium.
I love that
Something for Charles.
I love that you look to Nick when you say he didn't pit, as though it was Nick's decision not to pit.
Talk us through your decision, Nick.
But we will get on to the Mercedes pace. We'll start with the good stuff. Mercedes are back, whether that's track specific or the fact that they are entering a sort of 3-horse race for wins now remains to be seen. This is obviously a track that does suit them, but they were flying on the hard tyre. Before the show started, Mario Isola was just walking out the paddock of Pirelli. I ran over to him and said, why do you think that hard tyre was working a lot better than perhaps people anticipated? Because it was looking like it was a second a lap slower than the soft. He said it's because of track evolution, whether that's through the course of the day or the course of the race, we didn't quite specify. But Nick, you were saying Alonso was on them early enough.
Yeah, correct. Alonso switched to the hard very early on in the race, and he looked very quick and competitive. So I think actually the hard tyre was just a very good tyre here today.
Surprisingly so,
regardless
though.
of the evolution.
Well, Max didn't think it would be any good. He was on the radio saying, "Tell me, keep me abreast of what's going on in the hard, but I expect it'll be rubbish." As the Mercedes guys were setting fastest lap after fastest lap. So, Fernando was on it really early, and it was just a good tyre. And sometimes it can happen when the track gets more rubbered in and you can lean on the tyre more, you can get the temperature in and get it working. And maybe that did help, because earlier on in the weekend it looked like it would be, maybe you'd take it for some track position but not have the pace. It actually worked really nicely for everyone that ran it today.
It was somewhat of a roller coaster for Lewis Hamilton. At one point, with track position, he sounded buoyant, confident in the cockpit, thinking perhaps this could be that first Mercedes win that they've been looking for this season. And then it all began to unravel with the safety car coming out for Valtteri Bottas, meaning, and obviously the virtual safety car, meaning they didn't have the advantage of the pit stop either. But the safety car coming out saw George Russell pit to softs. He made that call to pit to softs as well, importantly. Max Verstappen pit to softs. And then suddenly we all had these awful flashbacks of Abu Dhabi last year, didn't we? Lewis Hamilton, track position out in front on mediums, but behind Max Verstappen on the soft tyre. And then everyone else slowly began to get onto softs as well. Nick, you were in the garage. What was going on?
Well, I think it's fair to start with the first virtual safety car, because obviously Mercedes was on a one stop, and they had the track position, so Max would have come out 7 seconds behind Lewis, and obviously thanks to that virtual safety car that didn't happen. And then I think obviously they thought that we could have had a shot at the win, and they gambled at keeping Lewis out on the medium, and I think it was just a risk to reward decision and calculated call. So nothing really to kind of blow it up. It was just a risk worth to take to have a shot at the win.
Lewis furious on the radio, wasn't he? Quite a few expletives in his radio message, and saying, of course, that in George Russell pitting and making that call for softs, it removed the buffer between him and Max. Would that have made a difference ultimately in the end, do you think?
Well, it would have helped, and I think there's a few things in it, really. First of all, George pitting left Lewis pretty much in the lurch there, because he had suddenly Max there on the soft tyre. And always the restart was going to be the big thing, because you're on the medium, under safety car, the temperature's going down, and that was going to be the best area for Max to try and pass, or anyone on the soft. And it was so easy in the end for Max. So I think if George was there, it would have been a buffer, and George would have been passed on the restart probably, and Lewis could do another lap. Max was too quick today, regardless, I think. But I can understand why Mercedes wanted to try and do it, because they want to get the win. And so when you have the track position, leaving the car out front, it sort of makes sense rather than just cementing a second and third. Pitting George left Lewis really a little bit stuck. George was clever in trying to get the pit stop, but actually it was an easier call for George to make, because he was second.
Nothing to lose.
He had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So Lewis had a harder decision to try and call the pit stop. If he calls it, then he's throwing away a potential win. George was not throwing away a potential win by trying to pit for softs. He was going to be second, probably third, with Max just behind. So he thought, I might actually get second or even chase Max on the soft tyre. So I think it was actually an easier call for George to make. The team went with him, and it actually just left Lewis a little bit exposed.
Yeah, he was a sitting duck, wasn't he? And actually, Valtteri Bottas has just scooted through the man whose Ferrari power unit caused the safety car, which caused the ensuing chaos in the pit stops. We're going to head to the studio now, because we're going to look in detail at that restart, and quite frankly, the ease at which Max Verstappen was able to pass Lewis Hamilton on that restart as well. Guys, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation with the restart. Alex Brundle was sitting next to me during the race, and he called this out immediately as we saw it. And we've been playing back and forth about the restart and the crucial moment of the Grand Prix itself. Alex, tell us what we're seeing here and why this grabbed you.
We've been pouring through the regs, because this This line here is the line, the signalling line. You can tell because they're signalling from it over there. And basically, Max Verstappen got a lot more speed than Lewis Hamilton, got a great exit from turn 13 on his soft compound tyres. Cannot pass Lewis Hamilton before this line. So he definitely hasn't done that, but it's such a well-timed restart from Verstappen. There's a front wing in it. What's complicating matters for us, though, is there's a graphic that is kind of neither here nor there in the race director's notes, which shows two cars pretty much nose to tail, or offset, but with the front wing of one behind the gearbox of the other as they head across the line. So interesting. There's been absolutely nothing about this. I think it's just an exceptionally well-timed restart from Max, but it does just show you how close they were across the line and how close this was to Max actually beating Lewis to the start-finish line.
Now, the rules are pretty clear in sporting regulations. You are not allowed to overtake before that start-finish line. What's an overtake? What's allowed? What is the meaning of that diagram in the race director's notes? My understanding of it, from speaking to a few people post-race, is that because the safety car had entered the pit lane, that diagram did not apply. But that is just what a few people are suggesting is the case. There's no official word from the FIA. We don't know for certain, but it doesn't look like it's being under investigation. And also, Charles Leclerc was extremely close across the line with Sergio Perez, a bit further back, which we also didn't see. So yeah, there's a few question marks.
Very similar circumstance. In any case, what we had, a very fast Mercedes today, looked fast on the medium compound tyre at the start, hanging on to Verstappen on the soft, looked very fast again on the hard compound. Just not as raceable as the Red Bull. 296 km/h average for the Mercedes across the speed trap. 304 for the Red Bull. Here's Max Verstappen, I should say, blasting round the outside of George Russell. They had to do something different on strategy. Went for the one stop down at Mercedes, and this is how the race played out, Sam.
Yeah, Mercedes had clearly come into this Grand Prix fully intending to go for a one-stop strategy, starting on the medium tyre, doing about 29-30 laps on it, and then seeing performance drop off, jump onto the hard tyre and go to the end of the Grand Prix. And you know what? That strategy looked absolutely fantastic. They'd pulled a blinder. They would have been first and second in the Grand Prix. With Max Verstappen still owing a pit stop, he'd have had to drop behind George Russell. That's the way it was all building up. And he would have had to race back through. And would he have done it? I think he probably would anyway. The Red Bull was so much faster. But there was that crucial moment in the race where you saw those cars come in, the virtual safety car came out, Max Verstappen got a free pit stop. He managed to get a set of hard tyres on and thought, right, I've got track position, I've got fresher tyres, and I was going all the way to the end. And then it didn't work out when the full safety car came out. Lewis Hamilton, they rolled that dice. It was risk versus reward, as Nick said, but ultimately, for me, the real question is, and you've got two racing drivers with you, Laura, what defines an overtake and where can you not overtake on that restart? Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Sam Collins there, these boys haven't got their ears, so they didn't actually hear the what Sam just asked you. I actually can't remember what Sam just asked you. It's about the overtake on the restart. When can you overtake? And what defines the overtake? When can you and when can't you?
Oh, the finish line, but Max was fine. It was close, but fine.
Yeah, he had huge momentum. He was coming alongside, but he was just behind, crucially, so it was allowed.
Not much of a difference, but
it was really tight, and he had a big overlap.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit earlier, then he would have had to back off, and actually might have saved Lewis for another lap. Yeah. But it was perfect. I thought Lewis went probably maybe a little bit too early on that restart because the Red Bull's top speed is so high. So the longer you leave Max getting the slipstream and the run, it gave him a big chance into turn one. I thought he might try and do the old school, go right up to the line slowly and then just do a little burst to turn one. What do you think?
Yeah, probably it was a bit early. Yeah, it's a decision and a call you make in the moment, obviously. Yeah, we've all been there.
But it wouldn't have made a difference, to be honest. Either way, Max was too quick.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Sam Collins agreeing with you there. From Mercedes, it was risk versus reward and the gamble not paying off today for Lewis Hamilton. Let's hear from the boss then, shall we? It's Toto Wolff.
Toto, for so much of today's race, you guys looked like you were in the pound seats. Was today a win lost, or are you happy to get that podium, the best ever result for George?
The win today is the performance that we showed. It's frustrating. We gambled high. We took a risk. And that's how we discussed it in the morning, and it really went bad for Lewis. But every day of the week, before settling for second and third, I take the risk to win.
Absolutely, that's what you guys have always done. Obviously, it was George's decision to come into pit for the softs at the end. Everything changed, though, so quickly towards the end. You were the team with the advantage at that point. At one point, both the drivers on the medium and Max on the hards. It could have worked out so differently today. How much satisfaction do you take from the steps forwards that you've made, from the position that you were in, and that for the majority of today's race, you had a shot at today's win?
Yeah, I think we had a real shot before the AlphaTauri decided to take the car on a jolly, and then again, and Max would have come out like 10 seconds behind us, maybe 8, and I think we would have raced for the victory, but things are like they are, and the car can break down. So it was nice to see for the first time ever in our race planner that it showed us coming out first, and I think this is the most important positive.
Thanks, Toto.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Oh, strong words there from Toto, taking the AlphaTauri on a little jolly, but echoing perhaps the thoughts we had that it is good to see Mercedes with a bit of pace finally coming through. I suppose you can take some heart from that, Nick?
Bit of pace. I think it was a great
All right,
day.
a lot of pace.
Yeah, it was a very competitive day. And ultimately they were in the fight for a potential win. So I think, of course, there is this kind of bitter taste afterwards, but I think the whole weekend has been very encouraging. Lewis could have been fighting for pole yesterday. He was only 700ths behind Max going into the last corner before the yellow flags. Today he was on the fight for the win at the first virtual safety car and even later. So yeah, encouraging weekend.
Encouraging weekend for sure. And Jolien, we were finally seeing that three-way fight that we've been asking for the last few races.
But everyone keeps saying this, but Mercedes have been there for a few races as well. Spa, they weren't. It was harder. The pace wasn't quite there.
Hungary, of course, they were.
Hungary, they were on pole.
On pole.
Yeah, you're right.
France, they were quick. Lewis finished second, and in Hungary as well. Silverstone, he nearly won. Mercedes have actually been all right for a few races. Just Spa was a little bit harder. So they're giving us nice races, and I really enjoyed the three-way fight today because they offer something different with the one-stop strategy as well. I think the next race maybe will be a little bit harder at Monza. I don't know what you guys are expecting.
Yeah, well, just to engage in that, I think it's nice when you have the 3 kind of teams and 6 cars up front, then you're not just covering each other, but you actually have a third team to look at. So it just makes the dynamic a little bit more interesting.
Absolutely.
Hence why we forgot everything when we came here. And
you did, but we've
got too much.
There was a lot going on. We've got it written down. There you go. You can copy my homework.
Can you read her writing?
No, not a
Jolien,
chance.
oh boys, don't hang up on me. All right. Well, let them just dissect the hieroglyphics that is my handwriting, apparently. But here from Lewis Hamilton, he was very angry on race radio. I wonder how he is in the pen with Lawrence Barretto.
Hey Lewis, I'm guessing at parts of that race you thought the win was on there, so how are you feeling right now?
I feel okay now. But just up and down in emotions through that race, you know. At the start, obviously, the little tangle with Carlos and the worry that I might not finish the race again, and then going through the race and getting on the one stop and really challenging, think we were going to fight for this win. I really thought we were going to be there fighting for this win, and then the safety car came out, completely screwed us, and then I'm sitting there, and I'm in the lead, but I know no matter how good or bad a restart I get, I won't be able to hold these guys up, keep them behind. And then to see it slip through my fingers, there was such an outburst of emotions. But so apologies to my team for that. But that's just also, I don't want to apologize in terms of my passion. That's just sometimes how it goes. But there are so many positives to take from today. So many positives in this weekend. We were finally there fighting the Red Bulls today, and that's a great feeling. So I want to take that forwards. Our pit stops were mega, like the best pit stops we had. And when we had those, I was like, geez, these guys are ready for this win. But you know, we were just unfortunate, and you know, we move onwards and upwards.
So it must feel like that first win of this year isn't far away down.
No, it definitely does, but it's like sometimes it's right there with you, and then sometimes it's miles away. So I don't know what to expect in the next races, but I hope that we have another track that suits our car like this one, and if so, we will be bringing down there next again.
Great stuff, thank you.
And Nick de Vries there, where I said Lewis Hamilton has just apologised to his team, saying it was just something in the heat of the moment, and
I haven't said anything.
You said Lewis apologised to the team.
You were talking about K-Mag and Seb
No,
and
listen.
Mick, and I said I didn't see it, and you were being harsh.
No, listen. No, not that. I was saying, when I said to you, Lewis has just apologised to the team, you said, yeah, it really wasn't a big moment. It was a heat of the moment thing, and in the garage, it's all good.
Yeah, apologise. Yes.
Okay,
That's
okay.
right.
Okay, thank you, Nick. We'll move it along then to Kevin Magnussen, who showed quite elite car control within the opening few laps or so, almost in the barrier. I think actually made contact with it somehow, not just saved it, but carried on and raced and finished.
He didn't even come back in the pits after the lap. It looked like it was going to be a safety car straight away because he had a big snap coming into turn 2 and he whacked the barrier quite hard on the left rear. I think it was a Tech Pro, so it's not. It gave a little bit of maybe a little bit of give and allowed him to carry on. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, what did you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, nothing else to add. I think Julian did a good job on that.
Thank you very much, Nick. Great stuff. We also saw some brilliantly clean, fair, good racing between Mick Schumacher, who will rue the slow pit stop. Won't need 2 slow pit stops for Mick today, and Sebastian Vettel, who equally didn't have a day to write home about, but we did see some great battles on track between the two of them, didn't we?
Well, it seems that they are not able to leave each other on and off track. I mean, they seem to keep getting together.
Yeah, they do. Jolien, what did you make of those battles?
They were so friendly to each other in the battle. It was like they were racing just as mates, you know, not in Formula One, trying to get the position. I mean, I think Mick was good to the outside at turn 11. They went side by side through 3 corners, and later on we saw Lewis trying to pass Checo in the same corner. You're never going to go around the outside at turn 11, but Seb and Mick outside of the points where I think they were enjoying the battle, very, very friendly with each other. It's a real shame for Mick today because he's coming under some pressure and it's another race where he gets no points, and that'll still be the talking point that he's scored a lot less than K-Mag, but he was really strong this weekend, and with a bad pit stop from Haas, dropped him down the order and cost him another chance.
Yeah, his 4th Q3 of the season and a brilliant one, but unable to translate it to the all-important points for today. Let's move on to Charles Leclerc in P3. It's not what Ferrari would have wanted, certainly on a track that we were all talking up to be one to play to their strengths.
Yeah, when you look at Spa being pretty bad for them and easy for Red Bull, this was going to be the one where everyone was thinking
Sorry, a fan with a beer and a cigarette is just desperate for a photo with Nick while we're on air, but we'll carry on as though this is normal.
So, yeah, Ferrari, they had a chance this time because, you know, it was a circuit that suited them a lot more. Monza, it's their home race, but I think it will suit Red Bull again. And this one slipped them by, but they just didn't have the performance overall.
No, quali was obviously very tight yesterday. I felt like maybe, you know, there was a real... They would have had the upper hand if it was not for the 2 mistakes in Sector 2. But and then when you have the track position, things are a bit easier. But as Jolien said, they simply, were just lacking a bit of pace today.
Was that a mate of yours?
No.
Is he going to the party you're going to this evening?
I'm not sure. I'm flying to England, so...
Where are you partying tonight?
Nowhere.
Nowhere, right.
Nowhere.
In Brackley.
In Brackley, in the simulator tomorrow morning.
In the sim tomorrow, I love it. Let's hear then from Charles Leclerc.
Hey Charles, good to see you back on the podium, but I'm guessing that you were just a little bit disappointed at how the performance of the car was today.
Yes, I think we are as a team. On the soft, I think we were strong because considering we had used tyres compared to Max's new tyres, we were relatively quick. But then on the medium, for some reason, it didn't feel as good, and the hards neither. So. But the surprise is mostly Mercedes on the hard tyres. They were extremely quick today, and yeah, maybe we can learn something from it.
I know you said you're not going to give up until it's mathematically impossible to win the title, but do you feel like it is starting to move away, particularly on a track where, here in theory, you should have been a bit closer to Red Bull?
Yeah, I mean, we are not. I mean, Red Bull is the faster car at the moment, especially in race pace. In quali, I think we are very close. Mercedes seems to have gained a bit of performance in race pace too, so yeah, it's looking difficult.
Thanks.
For goodness sake, Will Buxton has arrived to add to what is the most chaotic post race. Don't go anywhere. Have you enjoyed roaming around?
Yeah, it's been great fun. It was really, really good. We only got 2 questions with Toto, unfortunately, but...
Was he rushing for a plane?
No, he had something that he had to do at the motorhome. Yeah, probably getting his bags.
What have you liked most of our post ratio so far? What have you picked up?
I liked your kind words towards me, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm sorry you've had to spell with Laura. I'm joking. No, honestly, great. I only got 2 questions with Toto, but you can sense just the feeling that everything's coming right, everything's moving in the right direction, but also, you know, from Christian, the fact that he says, look, we're in a 3-horse race here. You know, Mercedes are there. We know they're there. They're a constant threat. And that was the thing today. Sure, Red Bull had Ferrari covered off today. They had them beaten easily, but they didn't have Mercedes beaten. And they've now got a double headache for the remainder of the year. And that's great for fans of the sport.
Yeah, it really is. Your thoughts on George Russell's performance today? The really good strategic call to go onto the soft tyre when it mattered?
Yeah, fantastic, phenomenal. You know, and that's a driver who's just in his moment, in his element, totally calm, able to be completely aware of the scenario and say, I want to move on to the soft. And that was great. And, you know, Joe and I were talking about it in commentary. He's 13 points off second place in the championship. That's astonishing when you consider where that car's come from, where it's going to. He's 30 points clear of Lewis Hamilton in the championship as well. He's making it, you know, his own this year, and he's doing such a phenomenal job in his first year alongside one of the greatest drivers we've ever seen in Formula One. I think George is doing a wonderful job.
Great stuff. Summarised very well. Thanks, Will. Let's hear from the man himself. It's George Russell.
Well, at the end to call for the softs, you must be pleased with not only that, but the performance of the car today.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most pleased about is the performance of the car. I think that's really exciting to see how much progress we've made. I think today, I need to look at the numbers and details, but I think we had the fastest car today. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fight for victory if we keep qualifying so far down the grid. It was a shame that both Lewis and I weren't standing on that podium, as I think that's what we as a team deserve to be. But we made a bold decision this morning saying we're going for the win, and you know, had we both pitted, would have conceded the position to Max. Had we both stayed out, we probably both would have conceded the position to Max as well. So our best chance was, you know, splitting it, and here we are.
If you can repeat this performance in at least a few of the races coming up, that must be pretty exciting, because you are kind of on the cusp, aren't you, of getting that win?
Yeah, I think we really are. You know, Ferrari are definitely in our sights of P2 in the team's championship, P2 in the drivers' championship. But ultimately, we as a team want to win a race. That's really our target. That's our focus, our goal. But it's exciting to see how we're closing the gap.
Okay, so thank you.
Oh, it's just absolute chaos here. I feel like I'm a school teacher between 2 naughty schoolboys. But we must bid goodbye. Oh, Nick, we must bid.
Go ahead.
We must bid goodbye to Nick de Vries.
Thank you very much.
I think so. I think thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I think.
welcome. You're welcome.
No, you've been absolutely
We'll
mega.
see you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
very much.
Nick.
Cheers. Safe travels, everyone.
See you next time. Safe travels. There we go. And I don't know what you've done, but apparently the Christian Horner interview we can't hear. You must have messed it up. Maybe you swore or something. But
Christian did.
Could you surmise for us?
Potty mouth Horner, we're going to call him now. That's why we can't. No, he was very good. Yeah, he was just talking about how impressed he'd been with Max this weekend to come to the track. 305,000 fans here, and not just Max, but the entire team. How they've tried to keep themselves in a bubble, but how calm they were, how they made the right decision at the right point. They didn't let the occasion overawe them, and really just stayed calm through it. And that's a testament to the team, a testament also to Max's maturity and how much he has come on in leaps and bounds since winning that World Championship, and just how proud he is, you know, really of the whole team and what they're doing. And as I said, also the fact that they are very aware now that it's not just them versus Ferrari, it's them versus Mercedes as well. And that, for the remainder of this season, is a wonderful narrative to be taken through.
I think that's such a good point that you and Christian have made, that Red Bull were very much downplaying the impact this weekend would have on him. In the pre-race show, Christian saying this is very much just another weekend for Max, but it's not, is it? I mean, we were saying before, imagine putting on a helmet anyway and getting out there with this kind of atmosphere, but to do so as Max Verstappen, as the man everybody wants to see win, as the man who had a difficult Friday, quali only a smidge by, but today he got the job done when it really mattered. I mean, the pressure on him just must have been huge.
It would have been, but it would have been for anyone else. I don't know if Max feels any pressure, to be honest. And this year, yeah, the big crowd, and should add a little bit. But the championship's done. Last year was real pressure for Max, and even imagine Abu Dhabi, neck and neck with Lewis in the final race, 1 lap to try and win the title. He's been through that level of pressure. When he's in a Red Bull, he's so comfortable coming to this track. There's still pressure, but he can take this sort of stuff in his stride.
Yeah, absolutely. The sign of a world champion. And let's hear from him now. It's Max Verstappen, your winner.
Hey Max, congratulations. Was there a point when you were, I think, on the hard tyre and Lewis was behind you on the medium that you thought, uh-oh, this wasn't going to be my day?
Well, to be honest, they were so quick on the hard compound and even on the start of the medium that I thought, let's see if, how long the soft can hold on and what pace they can have on the medium tyre. But then, we had a good restart. I got in the lead, and for us in general today, the soft compound worked really well compared to like a hard compound.
Had a much stronger threat from Mercedes today. Are you expecting something like that going forward?
I think it's very track dependent. Not every track, but I think this is also one of the tracks which really suits their car, the way they have developed their car. So yeah, to still be ahead, of course, it's very good.
Congrats, thanks.
Well, there we go, the champion Max Verstappen. But while we have been on air and obviously not on our phones, we have just been alerted to the fact that Chris Medland has tweeted, Helmut Marko just told me an agreement has already been reached with all parties for Colton Herta to join if he is granted a super license by the FIA, and he expects a decision by Monza. Marko suggested the agreement involves Gasly to Alpine, but it's if the super license is granted. Breaking news, Will Buxton.
I was going to say, the one thing that tells us is that Gasly's going to Alpine.
Absolutely.
That's now looking like a guarantee. The situation's interesting. The FIA have got to give him a super license, and at the moment he doesn't qualify for one. And we've been talking about it throughout the weekend. There's a video on F1's YouTube account in which Lawrence and I detail some of the ways in which he might be given a super license. The FIA has fudged it before when Yamamoto decided to test for Toro Rosso. He didn't actually qualify for a super license at the time, but the FIA gave him one because they determined that he was of a suitable quality that he would have qualified for one anyway. So there is precedent for them doing it. I think in the case of Colton Herta, it would be wonderful for Formula One, for America, for Colton most importantly, who's a real quality driver. Lando rates him incredibly highly. I mean, look, I've been saying this a long time. The super license point structure was never intended to stop quality drivers getting to Formula One. It was supposed to stop kids buying their way in that didn't have the quality. Colton has the quality. I'd love to see him here, but time will tell whether they manage to get him a super license or not.
There is resistance in the paddock, though. I know a number of team principals, indeed Stefano Domenicali, saying that things should be done by the book, Jolyon.
Oh, well, rules and regulations, everyone wants to follow them really very closely, and there was obviously we don't want to get into Abu Dhabi last year, but ever since then, really, there's been absolute regulation, not even just in the sport, but in terms of how drivers get there, how other procedures are done and everything, jewelry, all sorts of things that are happening now, and it's all by the book. And what precedent does it set if you can just actually say we're not going to follow it on this occasion because it makes sense to do that or whatever? So that's the argument against. I don't know how it will go, and it'll probably go on a little bit more because I'm sure Red Bull will push for it.
Rules are rules, obviously, and rules should be followed. The question is, are the rules the right rules? And if the rules aren't the right rules, then should the rules be changed to allow something that should be allowed rather, there was never the intention that the rules would stop this kind of thing from happening. So we wait and see whether he'll be allowed in. If he is, I think it'd be cracking for Formula One. It would be great for Colton Herta. And then it throws a spanner in the works with the IndyCar silly season as well, because there's suddenly a new seat open there.
Well, it's interesting.
Maybe Daniel Ricciardo would go. Who knows?
It'd be a good signing, I think. If they can get him in, I think it makes complete sense for AlphaTauri because he looks like a great talent. Everyone seems to rate him. American in the sport as well for the Red Bull Group and AlphaTauri. Two young drivers, which is kind of what that team's there for. It makes a lot of sense. They just need to clear it with the rules somehow.
Yeah. And if he doesn't get it, maybe there's space for Felipe Drugovich, who is absolutely smashing the Formula 2 Championship at the moment, and no one is talking about in terms of an F1 seat, which baffles me.
Yeah, he's got one hand on the trophy already, all but sewn up. I think he's 70 points clear with 78 left on the table. Brilliant racing in that class. I was saying it was interesting. I walked past the Red Bull motorhome today, and I saw Zach Brown deep in conversation with Helmut Marko.
Well, that is because probably Colton Herta at the moment has an agreement and a contract with McLaren. So there we go.
Exactly. There we go. It is all going on. Perhaps the silliest seasons of all, but hopefully things will become a little bit clearer in Monza next week, and that is where we are heading next. But what an unbelievable race we have seen today, and an unbelievable day if you are Dutch, if you're part of the Orange Army, and if you're a fan of Max Verstappen. 109 points. He is now clear of Charles Leclerc in the championship. We'll see you in Monza.